So I've been working on my authorization service, and it's totally sweet. It's only taken me 6 months to build it. Just 6 months. I started implementing some basic RBAC library, but that wasn't enough, obviously. So I designed relationship-based, fine-grained authorization for the highest security possible. And then, to make it super fast, I used a GPU tower, running in my mom's basement, of course, connected via optic cable to bare metal server at my local esports lounge, permissions, restrictions, and admin. Nailed it.
Wait. Whatever you did sounds cool, but there's also another option.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with Permit.io. Permit is the full-stack authorization platform created so you never have to build permissions again. Build and manage permissions for any application with policy as code, APIs, developer-friendly SDKs, and user-facing UIs. Permit is an end-to-end authorization platform built on top of open-source policy engines. It's high-performing, gets decisions in less than 10 milliseconds, and uses a hybrid approach where config is in the cloud, but data and decisions are made locally. Not only is it intuitive, it lets you implement fully functional authorization in 5 minutes, not 6 months, and in the codebase you prefer. Check out the link in the show notes or go to permit.io to learn more. That's permit.io. Sign up for Permit and stop rebuilding auth.
I was able to build out the template of what a video-based developer support platform could look like. And I wanted to prove it to investors, right? I wanted to show that 400 or 500 users with high sentiment scores were a proof of concept. I went to a instructional design company and paid them quite a bit of money to build 3 courses. And they came back with highly animated, sort of robotic voiceover videos. And I showed it to a couple of potential partners, people that would buy this from us eventually. And one of them said, "Where'd the money go?" I'm Jake Ward. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Data Protocol.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing at the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to
took
do next.
many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their
The
back.
company is its
The
people.
teams help each other achieve. I was proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was a
Yes, we've been fighting it as we grow.
total waste of time.
The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took it
you.
off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really
It's
want it.
not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story. I'm your host, Noah Laupart, and today how Jake Ward built a way for you to reach and engage your most important audience, the developers. This episode is sponsored by Kiteworks. Legacy-managed file transfer tools lack proper security, putting sensitive data at risk. With Kiteworks MFT, companies can send automated or ad hoc files in a fully integrated, highly secure manner. The solution is FedRAMP Moderate authorized by the Department of Defense and has been so since 2017. Step into the future of secure managed file transfer with Kiteworks. Visit kiteworks.com to get started. This episode is sponsored by ClearQuery. ClearQuery is the Analytics for Humans platform. With their full suite of features, you can go from data ingestion to automated insights seamlessly. With Ask ClearQuery, you can find valuable insights into your data using plain English. Don't miss the opportunity to simplify your data analytics with ClearQuery. Get started today at clearquery.io/codestory. Jake Ward was originally from a small town in Maine and claims to be running away from the snow by living in South Carolina now. He worked in politics for a while in the House and the Senate and public affairs before starting the Application Developers Alliance. This spurred on the next chapter of his life. Outside of tech, he has 3 kids and enjoys golf. He loves to cook and spend time with his children, playing basketball or exploring life sciences. He also mentioned that every 5 years he tends to buy another house, have another kid, and start another business. Jake figured out that 85% of developers want their content through video, over documentation or other means of infocomms. He believes that developers are building the world around us, and as such, the world is underperforming in how those people are supported. He decided to change this and set out to build docs and guidance learnings into one video content platform. This is the creation story of Data Protocol.
Data Protocol is a platform that enables companies to better support their software developer partners and internal workforce. What we have ostensibly done is take all of the work, all of the creativity, all of the expertise of developer advocates and evangelists and even chief learning officers and put it into an on-demand platform. We took the learnings of DevDocs and API guidance and the information that is frequently shared with external partners and internal workforce and put it on video. Right? We spin up what we think of as best-in-class content that is short form, incredibly propulsive and informative, and deliver it to developers so that they have what they need the way that they want. 85% of software developers working today say that they would prefer to get information through video than through traditional dev docs or blog posts. The vast majority of developer relations, developer advocacy teams struggle to connect and support their developer partners, to say nothing of the fact of recruiting and supporting new developer partners. And so we're trying to fill that void. The reality of the world that we live in is that there are many B2D companies, those business to developer companies that rely on a growing community, a growing user base. They are overmatched, right? They don't have nearly the firepower they need to deliver the information that developers need to build cool stuff safely, and to reduce the friction and the breakage that exists without those answers. The reason that we built this sort of lies in the heart of everything that I just laid out, is that I believe developers are building the digital world around us and that we should go give them a hand. That we are underperforming in the way that we support the people that are building the future. And it's just a matter of empathy and effort to deliver that information in a way that it is more usable, more measurable, and more scalable.
Let's dive into the MVP. So tell me about that first version of Data Protocol, that very first product you built. How long did it take to build, and what sort of tools were you using to bring it to life?
The first version was a disaster. It was terrible. I spent 2 years, after I left the Application Developers Alliance, I spent a little less than 2 years hosting workshops for software developers around the world. Did a couple in Paris, some in London, a few here in the States, Singapore, India, South America, because I wanted to know what developers as a global workforce were missing. I had a hunch, but where are we falling short of reaching and supporting this workforce, which at the time was 24, 25 million people, is now closer to 31 million. That's a lot of people that we are failing to live up to their expectations. And so I met with probably 2,000, a little less than 2,000 over the course of 19, 20 months. And what they said universally is, I want to build cool things. I want to go fast. I don't want my stuff to break. I'm not looking to get in trouble. Tell me what you need me to do and I'll do it. Okay, let's talk about what that means. Do you need better documentation? Do you need shorter, quippier communication? Is Discord going to get the job done? Common Room wasn't really exploding at the time, but if it had been, I would have said, is Common Room getting the job done? And they would have said, it's really cool, but that's not quite what we're talking about. Are there better ways for companies and their developer advocacy and relations teams to support you? So I went through this whole process. And at the end, I was able to build out the template of what a video-based developer support platform could look like. And I wanted to prove it to investors, right? I wanted to show that 400 or 500 users with high sentiment scores were a proof of concept. So I went to an instructional design company and paid them quite a bit of money to build 3 courses. And they came back with highly animated, sort of robotic voiceover videos with Scorum backend, so basically built for an LMS that laid over, I think it was LearnDash, which is WordPress's LMS interface. And I showed it to a couple of potential partners, people that would buy this from us eventually. And one of them said, "Where'd the money go? I know you spent a lot of time and energy. You wrote the scripts, you gave them this information, and you paid them to do this. Where did the money go?" So that was a kick in the teeth. we went back to the drawing board. There's only 3 or 4 of us at the time. We went back to the drawing board and thought about the interface itself, how flat it felt. We weren't an LMS. We weren't trying to compete with Docebo or even Coursera or Udacity. That isn't what we were trying to do. This is supposed to be for developers. How do we make sure that they know that this is for them? And the idea of creating a CLI terminal interface on the screen was the answer to that question. Now you have this thing that tells developers when they open the front door, we designed this just for you. That's a good start. Now what? Well, we can use that interface to ask questions so that their hands need to stay on the keyboard, which is how developers work. It's also how they learn. We can use the rest of the interface to drop notes about what's important so that soft skill information can be boiled down to 14 words and pinned to an account. Okay, now we've got a back-end situation where everybody's got an account, all data is attributable, but we don't want anybody's first and last name. We just want to be able to create an account for them so that they can measure their success and their progress, that they can pin their notes to an account. Okay, now we have a framework. Where do we go from here? And then some of the central tenets made it into our beta. So that MVP was a dumpster fire. 4 months later, we were ready with those same scripts. We went and shot them as video in a WeWork in Washington, D.C., did some post-production to it, and put it in an interface that ultimately would look something like what we have now. With that beta in hand, I took it out to 500 or so of the 2,000 developers that I had met with. And what I got was near universal, this is great, more of this. Yes, this is a better way to learn. And from there, we were able to raise some money. So I guess 8 months all in for the MVP and beta. And then it took 99 days to build the sketch of the platform that has continued to evolve that sits at app.dataprotocol.com now.
This episode is sponsored by Kiteworks. Legacy managed file transfer tools are dated and lack the security that today's remote workforce demands. Companies that continue relying on outdated technology put their sensitive data at risk. And that's where Kiteworks comes in. Kiteworks MFT is absolutely the most secure MFT on the market today. It has been FedRAMP moderate authorized by the Department of Defense since 2017. Through FedRAMP, Kiteworks' level of security compliance provides a fast route to CMMC compliance, saving customers time, effort, and money. Kiteworks MFT makes it easy for users to send automated or ad hoc files via fully integrated shared folders and email. Administrators can manage policies in a unified console and create custom integrations using their API. Did we mention it's secure? The level of security with Kiteworks solution is rare to find. Step into the future of secure managed file transfer with Kiteworks. Visit kiteworks.com to get started. That's KITEWORKS.com. This episode is sponsored by CacheFly. The web is a competitive place, and if your site delivers its content pixelated, slow, or not at all, well, then you lose. But that's where CacheFly comes in. CacheFly delivers rich media content up to 159% faster than other major CDNs. Through ultra-low latency streaming, lightning-fast gaming, and optimized mobile content, the company offers a variety of benefits. For over 20 years, CacheFly has held a track record for high-performing, ultra-reliable content delivery. While competitors call themselves fast or use cute animal names, only CacheFly holds the record of being the fastest and serves customers like Adobe, the NFL, or Roblox, where content is created by users and must be delivered in real time. For the first time ever, CodeStory listeners can get a 5 terabyte CDN for free. Yep, you heard that right, free. Learn more at cachefly.com/codestory. That's CACHEFLY.com/codestory. So you've got to the point where your MVP is done, right? You raised some money, you're ready to go off to the races. Tell me about how you matured and progressed the product. And I think to wrap that in a box a little bit, what I'm looking for is, how did you build your roadmap? And what were you doing to decide, okay, this is the next most important thing to build or to address with Data Protocol?
So I had the real advantage of having worked with a lot of startups when I was at the Application Developers Alliance. I worked with the guys at SendGrid and Twilio and Techstars in relatively early days. I remember horror stories of founders using this phrase that I heard more than once from more than one source to regale me with horror stories. It was founder's prerogative, which is the idea that when you're going through product design or you're building out function, a brainstorm or a discussion about features or functionality can be halted by the founder saying, nope, we're doing it this way, founder's prerogative. And that really stifled innovation. It also slowed down the very necessary milestone, which is that the founder stops doing the majority of the talking and that eventually the product isn't theirs anymore. The faster you can get there, the more successful, the more likely you are to be successful, because it's a 1 in a million chance that you had a great idea that can survive the market, that doesn't need to be adjusted, that your intuition is going to be right at every turn. And it's even less likely you will have the exact answer to adjust when you meet those forces of resistance. The CLI was my idea. The interface itself was my idea, and my commitment to the idea, the commitment to the sort of fundamental principle that developers want to do better. They want the information. They will do this if given an opportunity. You don't have to force them. You don't have to beat them over the head and shoulders. You don't have to bribe them. You just have to make it available. Those are the things that I brought to the table. And then I had an incredible string of luck where the product team knew exactly what to build and then what to tell me I was wrong about. And then the content team grew really quickly. My head of content and my head of products have been here basically since the beginning. I don't know that we would have made it out of the first 6 months without either of them. We're doing two things at once, right? We're building software, which is incredibly hard. And then we're building what I think is the best thing on the internet for developers in terms of video and content and dev docs and interactive resources, which is incredibly hard all by itself. And to make those two things talk to each other for companies like Meta and Intel and VMware and Google, that's walking the tightrope without a net. And we got really lucky to find them. And I was smart enough to know I didn't have all the answers, in many cases didn't have any of them. But the one principle that I would come back to over and over again is, what do developers want? What do they want? Not what do they think they need, what do they actually want? We're going to change the way that they engage with the information that they need so that it's so easy they can't avoid it. They don't want to do anything other than consume it, process it, apply it, and move on.
So you've mentioned team a few times. Tell me about how you went about building that team. What did you look for in those people to indicate that they were the winning horses to join you?
I would be lying if I said those dots connected moving forward. They always connect backwards. The reality is that in Charleston, South Carolina, there's not an overabundance of options in terms of world-class content development, world-class product development. You'd be incredibly fortunate to find a junior version of either of those things. Chris Neary, who runs my product team, fell into our lap and was part of the team that built the original platform and then came over after a while to run it from the inside. And Kimber Bogan, who I stole from Amazon in our early days, is an instructional designer who has the eye of a photographer, because she is, and the mind of an engineer, because she is. And those two things are hard to replicate if you went looking for them. Right? If you wrote on the job description, I need an artist with an engineer's mind or an engineer with an artist's eye, you wouldn't get anybody. And we happen to find both. The real key is they've got to work together. They need to be able to be partnered at the hip and make decisions about the platform and the content and the build out and the schedule. And like I said, software is hard, and building content at scale for as low a price as possible is really hard. And they've got to do both together. So they have to have each other's backs. So when I look backwards and I connect those dots as I plan out our roadmap for staffing moving forward, what I'm looking for is earned opinions that are loosely held. I'm looking for people that have stepped up and taken responsibility and accountability whenever they have the opportunity. I'm looking for somebody that before they leave at the end of the day, turns to the person next to them and says, is there anything I could do for you today? So that when we dig into a foxhole together, we have each other's backs and we can make decisions together rather than slowing down to make sure everybody's on the same page. You can quickly tell who belongs inside an organization that's going this fast and trying to disrupt this much of a marketplace by the shorthand they are seeking with each other, not just the shorthand they're bringing to the table.
This episode is sponsored by Cashfly. The web is a competitive place, and if your site delivers its content pixelated, slow, or not at all, well, then you lose. But that's where Cashfly comes in. Cashfly delivers rich media content up to 159% faster than other major CDNs. Through ultra-low latency streaming, lightning-fast gaming, and optimized mobile content, the company offers a variety of benefits. For over 20 years, Cashfly has held a track record for high-performing, ultra-reliable content delivery. While competitors call themselves fast or use cute animal names, only Cashfly holds the record of being the fastest and serves customers like Adobe, the NFL, or Roblox, where content is created by users and must be delivered in real time. For the first time ever, Code Story listeners can get a 5 terabyte CDN for free. Yep, you heard that right, free. Learn more at cashfly.com/codestory. That's CACHEFLY.com/codestory. Hello, welcome to the Data Analytics Club. Do you know the password? No, didn't know there was one. Do you know how to code? No. Do you know how to query data? Like, ask a question? I guess not. I see. Then you can't be in this club. Sorry. Goodbye. Don't be left out of the Analytics Club. ClearQuery is the Analytics for Humans platform. With their full suite of features, you can go from data ingestion to automated insights seamlessly. ClearQuery provides you with the information you need without requiring you to do the heavy lifting. Their Ask ClearQuery feature allows you to ask questions in plain English, helping you find relationships and connections in your data that may have previously gone unnoticed. You can even visualize your data with presentation mode, taking your data storytelling to the next level. Pricing is based on storage, not licenses, and that ensures that you get the most bang for your buck. Don't miss the opportunity to simplify data analytics, your data analytics, with ClearQuery. Get started today at clearquery.io/codestory. Let's flip to scalability. And this will be interesting, especially given who you're building for and what you're building. You know, I heard you mentioning that the early MVP was a dumpster fire that you reset, but I'm curious about where scalability came into play. Was it built early days to scale efficiently or with scale in mind, or has there been any areas where you've had to fight it as you've grown?
It was always built with scale in mind, though we have, I think, the unique challenge of a double-sided market in which both sides don't scale, only one does. People ask, how is that content model going to scale? To which I say it's not. The content doesn't scale. The users do. No developer uses just one API. No developer is interested in one privacy policy course, but not interested in a DDUP course from MetaQuest, right? Every piece of content on platform is A, valuable, B, valuable to more than one developer, and C, a price point for us. So the scalability of the audience is what we were building for. The content piece, what we needed to do was hammer the inefficiencies out of writing scripts, post-production graphic and design, and hosting on the platform itself, so that the metrics that we can deliver to a customer for engagement, proficiency, time on site, the general satisfaction and sentiment questions that we ask throughout the process, all of that information has to be available on a dashboard. We can't be writing reports for people. We can't be pulling PDFs and sending them over, right? That doesn't scale. If Skyflow is pushing their new features around a privacy vault on their site and ours, and they're seeing an uptick in use and adoption, they're going to want to look at their dashboard for a couple of thousand users because that's what their business model is based on. Whereas Meta Platform, which has 400,000 users, wants to take a look at a blip or a user spike based on news or a blog post that they put out. We need to be able to service them as well. That scalability has to be cooked in from the beginning. And I think we did a nice job from early days. We've only been live with paid content in the market for 20 months, not even 20 months. And the growth trajectory where we double every 2 or 3 months, where we're in terms of monthly active users, and the types of content that we're pushing out, product-based, promotional features and functions, as well as long-form compliance and sort of developer essentials for platform partnerships. That's a varied bag of content that I think really speaks to the need of developer audiences, as well as the appetite for content creation and bringing what would otherwise be dev docs and blog posts and memo form written updates to a video platform, video first platform. That to me is pretty close to product market fit. So we better be ready to scale.
When you step out on the balcony and you look across all that you've built, what are you most proud of?
The team, certainly the team. The way that they work together. When I am at a show or on location, even for a shoot, I don't have to be here to run the company. It's not that my leadership or even management isn't required for success, but it's certainly not required every day. People are working for the person sitting next to them, but they're also working for themselves. I tell my team all the time that my dream is their work, but I want their dream to be my job. That this thing, if we do it well, can be the last job you ever have or the last job you ever needed to apply for. And if we are doing this for the right reasons and we do it together and we keep our heads about us, this could get really interesting. Our first partners, our first customers, I think, validated the why and that we had a pretty good approach. And the last year of near profitability and tremendous growth put us on a path to realizing that we have the foundation of something really important here. And so when I think about it, I'm proud of the content. I love the platform. I love the work. But it's looking at the way that the people work together and they care about each other and they do the work for each other that I appreciate the most.
Let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
The first one, as you'll notice, I introduced myself as the co-founder of Data Protocol. I will never be anything less than grateful to my co-founders. I wouldn't have started this without them. There's no question about it. But I also was not fully committed because of them. Maybe because I didn't think that I needed to be. Maybe it's because I didn't believe that I was the best person of the three of us to do certain things. Whatever the cause, the outcome was that I did not have my hands on the wheel for 9 months of our early days. If I were to tell a founder, future CEO, it's like, you need to care about everything more than you've ever cared about anything in your life. Nothing is somebody else's problem. There's certainly times when you will delegate. There are a lot of times when you need to just shut up and let people do their work. But you got to care. You have to care. Even if you don't know what it is yet, there's no such thing as a halfway founder. I found that out when I had to make a decision about whether or not I could ever stop doing this. And I realized that I couldn't. Under no circumstances would I be willing to walk away from this. Almost overnight, it became my singular obsession. And so I would say that my mistake was not wrapping my arms around it earlier, that not fully understanding the sacrifice that it was going to take from the outset, and that the lesson learned from that is that you can't do this halfway. The second is a little more delicate. We got into a couple of situations with partners where we were being less than aggressive in the terms of our engagement, and were pretty, it's not that they abused that relationship, but they certainly did not appreciate that this was going to be hard for us. We've talked about who our first 5 partners were. These are massive companies. We've also had another 10 more on top of them. They don't think anything about a 90-day payment cycle. They don't think anything about asking you to do 3 more weeks worth of edits and changes to animation because they didn't have a lawyer take a look at something before it went to script. That's the kind of thing that could put a small startup out of business. This is a little bit related to the first mistake, but I didn't have my arms around those contracts yet. And so we were left doing work, losing time and money to meet the demands of very large companies in hopes that we would be able to get them back as partners. And in some ways, in some cases we did, and it turned out to be okay. But knowing what you're willing to do, white glove or otherwise, when you start an engagement, particularly when you're David to their Goliath, is something that you need to plan for, right? What's your contingency plan? What happens if you build the best possible product for the world's largest company and they tell you, no, go do it again? Are you going to say, no, this is what you get? This is what you agreed to, pay me my money? Are you really interested in racking up those legal fees? Those kinds of challenges are unforeseeable, perhaps, but certainly to be avoided whenever possible.
Jake, this will be fun. What does the future look like for Data Protocol, the product, and for your team?
The immediate future, I think we're going to have a very busy and profitable, literally profitable year building content for some very cool companies. The not so distant future is also going to see us bringing a number of products to market, data products, DevDoc products, as well as a new product offering that we're trying to name right now, which is interesting. And if anybody has any ideas, you can reach me, jake@dataprotocol.com. But the idea is video as a service, where we will build short video content through our discovery process. We'll script it, we'll shoot it, etc. But you as the partner host it on your site. And the reason we're doing that is because there's a DevDoc integration product solution that we're really interested in, but we can't do it from our platform. We want those two things to talk to each other. We've got a pretty good handle on how to build things that live on Data Protocol, and we are ramping up production through our studio functionality on the other side, which puts us in front of millions more users on a yearly basis, which is pretty exciting. I think with the data product in hand, I suspect it's going to be another 9 months or so, but the idea would be, if you have a question, if you have an interest in aggregate feedback from a developer ecosystem, we want to talk to you. If you want to put content on platform in order to gather feedback from developers, we want to talk to you. If you are already putting content in front of developers, but you're not getting any metrics around how do they feel about it, what do they want to do with it, what's your churn look like, what's your ROI, lifetime value, we want to talk to you. All of that is database solutions that don't exist in developer relations, developer advocacy right now. And not to get too far out over my skis, but you did ask the question of what the future looks like. The number of developer relations, developer advocacy professionals that have lost their jobs in the last 18 months is staggering. I think we can help. I think that we can give them the metrics and the data that they need to prove their value. I think we can help their employers, the companies that they work for, and the developers they serve get information they need to make better decisions and be more effective, which, if done well, will change the way that developers are engaged and supported, period, full stop, and ultimately raise the standard of software development, the speed of development, reduce the breakage, the number of tickets that are written, the cost of support across the board. My goal is to change the way that developers are being supported, and in doing so, change the way software is being built.
So let's switch to you. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to and why.
I imagine that there are any number of interviews that you've done, Noah, in which you get platitudes like, I want to be as creative as Steve Jobs and take a 30,000-foot view of things and do this and that. But mine is much more sentimental and frankly lame. I want to lead with empathy. I want every product we build to be cooked into the way that it makes people feel when they solve their problem. And my mother, who is a nurse for 50 years, is the backbone of that desire to be empathetic. I'm not sure that I am naturally an empathetic person. I'm sympathetic, but not particularly empathetic often. And I strive for that. Right? I see it as a goal, and we put it on the wall and we push toward it. And so I pretty frequently come back to the idea of what is the problem and how do I solve it? How do I move toward this thing that can deliver a better outcome that can make this person's life a little better or their work a little easier or give them another way forward. Another is a guy named Roger Chandler, who's a longtime vice president at Intel and who was the chairman of my board of directors when I was at the Alliance. And he's been an incredible mentor to me for a long time. He taught me the principles of design thinking from the IDEO school of thought of a problem clearly defined is nearly solved. And that's the format I use to run the workshops with the developers, that the outcome of which was data protocol. It's also the way that we take problems apart here is, okay, but what's the problem? And that's not the problem. What's the problem? What problem are you trying to solve? Not the outcome, the problem. And that philosophy imbued with the empathy or the skew towards empathy, I think drives a lot of our philosophy around here. It certainly drives a lot of my activity. And those are two of the biggest influences on the way that I work and the tools that I've tried to put in place to do my work. After that, I just get out of the way and let Chris and Kimber do their thing.
We talked about a mistake earlier, but this is a little different spin. If you could go back to the beginning, what would you do different? Or where would you take a different approach? It doesn't have to be something that didn't work. Maybe it even worked well, but perhaps you tweak it a little bit.
I spent some time battling with the idea of raising money in the Valley or not. I have a lot of relationships in Silicon Valley and San Francisco and the investment community because of what I used to do for a living. I had this idea. I had the backing of a couple major companies already. I knew what I wanted to build. I knew the product I was going to try to build. And I was 41 years old. Like I was already more seasoned than the vast majority of Stanford dropouts bringing pitch decks to VC meetings. But if I'd done that, how much pressure would be applied and what would be the guidance, right? If I raised $10 million, they would say, give the product away for free, go as fast as you can, build an audience, then go raise another 25, raise another 50. I often think about that, not as that would have been interesting, but in a what would you have done if money weren't an issue? I was very happy. I am very happy to have raised money here in Charleston from a long-term capital partner that gives us what we need, including a tremendous amount of strategic guidance. But the thing they said to me in early days is don't make decisions scared. Make decisions with sky's the limit, but understanding that that making choices is a virtue. And as a result, we've been able to run incredibly lean, which means that we're not making bad decisions. We're not incurring opportunity costs by swinging and missing at 4 different things. We have to choose which one of those 4 we're going to move forward with. I do wonder, though, in the other simulation, where are we if I raised $10 million in 18 months, we've got 65,000 users on platform and we're giving away content for free? Does it go faster or slower? I don't know. Would we be out of business by now? I don't know. But what I do know is that the innovation cycle would have slowed down dramatically because we wouldn't have had to make choices.
Okay, last question, Jake. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world and can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit several times?
The first thing that I would ask is, would you tear it all down and start over again? Would you hit Command A, delete on this thing and start all over again? Because if you wouldn't, you're not ready to do this. I'm a strong believer that you have to have a full mastery of a product and a problem and your audience in order to be successful. And if you aren't in search of that, if you aren't willing to grind through it and start over at the beginning every single day, you're going to quit at some point. The other thing I would ask is, how many people have you hired or how many people are on your team that are smarter than you? I might ask, or I might give the advice that if you're doing half of the talking in meetings, you're in trouble. And I would certainly ask, why are you solving this problem? What is the thing that drove you to want to solve this problem? I think that the number of people that have set out to solve a problem they've experienced themselves that have been successful can probably be counted on one hand. But the number of people that have set out to solve a problem that they are adjacent to, that's where the good stuff happens. Because you've got enough objectivity to solve it, to be dispassionate enough to make good decisions, but you're close enough to it to have perspective. And I think where you start says a lot about where you're going to finish. And trying to solve a problem so that you can sell your company, it's not a great idea. Trying to solve a problem because you think you can, that's a good start. Are you uniquely qualified to solve it? Now we're getting somewhere. Is it a time and a place situation? Is it aggregate knowledge and life experience? Do you have the right tools? Do you have the right people? That's what makes a successful company. It's never the idea. It's never the idea, because there's simply not a premium on the quality of the idea. There's too many smart people in the world having similar ideas. Everything's about execution.
Yeah, I love all those questions and I love all those pieces of advice. Well, Jake, thank you for being on the show today, and thank you for telling the creation story of Data Protocol.
It's my pleasure, Noah. Thanks for having me.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.